So I got to attend Frosty Faustings XV, which was my first major much earlier this year in the start of February. I know this is a long-ass overdue video, but my laptop was acting up around this time, so I couldn't do any video editing. But still, I figured this is at least a decent chance to provide more of a retrospective view, and I think it's still pretty decent content to talk about as from the perspective of a very passionate fighting gamer that doesn't have the chance to go to these types of events much. But just before talking about it, I just want to give a bit of a background of myself. So if it's not evident enough, I was an Asian kid. I grew up in China and Taiwan, and I actually used to be a huge Smash player and practically only played that game really throughout my childhood. And low-key, I was actually kind of good at it for my age and considering the lack of scenes that I could play in. And yeah, that's the main point. There weren't a lot of scenes, at least not ones that I knew of, to play around here in China and Taiwan. Even friend groups were really scarce when it came to games like these. And I got into fighting games not so seriously through mobile ports of games like Street Fighter 4, and also play Marvel vs. Capcom 3 at friends' houses. And I more seriously grew into it, into a fighting game player that is, by playing BB Tag on Switch. I know, very dark history, I'm not too proud of it. And regardless still, there also weren't too many scenes for those, again, at least not ones that I know of. But coming to the United States for university, it was a really exciting time for me since this was a really huge chance to finally play at events. And my university thankfully had a very large scene, so I got to enjoy this a lot. And I was actually a relatively solid player, really even in Smash as well, but let's not talk about that. In fighting games in particular, I am a top 40 Axel Guilty Gear right after all. But I was still hesitant to invest that much money to attend a major tournament, and mostly just stuck to university events, which they were certainly fun and actually really well organized, but they really only had at most 20 entrants for the largest games at the largest events. And with me coming really frequently in the top 4, top 5 for most of them, it definitely felt like I was missing out on what I could be competing at, maybe to see what my peak could be. And come my second semester of my senior year, it really was the last chance to probably attend one of these large tournaments, or one of my last chances to attend a large tournament, a major. Even with prices being the highest they've ever been, I decided to enter the one major that was accessible to me at the time, being Frosty Faustings XV. And the expectation I had was that I kind of knew what a bracket experience was roughly already, just from playing so many Smash and fighting game brackets. And that was the main expectation I was having going into this tournament, as in playing against a large pool of skilled players and hopefully making it out of pools. I had pretty high expectations for the tournament's bracket experience, and that was really what I was gunning for. And it was especially exciting since, unlike most of my closer friends, I actually played a large variety of games. I was entering Guilty Gear Strive and Third Strike as the main games I was competing in, while also playing in KOF 15 as a side game, and Ben's Fighting Hurt since it was free. I was also looking forward to getting some merch. I did own a fight stick and physical copies of fighting games, but that was pretty much all I had for fighting game memorabilia, and as my really deeply ingrained hobby, I was really looking forward to actually get some stuff that would represent me somehow. But otherwise, I was actually leaning a bit on the worried side in terms of just considering how large the investment was to enter a tournament like this. It cost over $100 on tickets alone, and this isn't even covering hotel costs or transportation. And I was worried it would possibly be an unworthwhile experience, and I could potentially be disappointed on how it actually was. And unlike tournaments like EVO, CEO, or Combo Breaker, Frosty Faustings wasn't actually really on my radar prior. I only heard about it in the past from Faust's reveal in Guilty Gear Strive, which only made me that much more anxious. But thankfully, you guys know how the tournament turned out. It was really a good-ass experience, and to this day, I'm still incredibly excited and exhilarated when discussing it. But yeah, first off, the exhilarating feeling of having your pretty niche hobby suddenly be the focal point of all your interactions over the course of a weekend is absolutely crazy, sometimes even overwhelming. There were at times where I would have to go to my hotel room to chill out for a little bit, just from how incredibly overwhelming the atmosphere is, but definitely in a good way. And as for the bracket experience, which was what I was gunning for, right? It was actually really amazing. Even just waiting for the matches in the main ballroom, while DNF's character select being blared on the speakers, was an incredibly atmospheric event and a hype setting to be in. In Guilty Gear Strive, I had, I believe, the largest tournament at the time, 1,059 players. I wouldn't know it then, but I'd actually be placed in the same pool as Ooey Gooey Chewy Snickers, who's the crazy godlike Anji that basically made his debut here. And he would said who I initially considered the bracket demon to fight me in losers, the bracket demon being Element, the Baiken player, which is a matchup I really struggled in. You have no idea how hype it was to clutch out that match in the closest 3-2 I've ever played, getting me out of pools in the first ever major that I played in for the biggest tournament ever yet for the largest fighting game at the time. It really felt like a testament to my skill and growth as a player. It was truly an exhilarating feeling. I was also eliminated by Jurassic Ori in my next match in top 192, but really that's an honor I'll bear. And sadly, I didn't do as well for Third Strike, despite playing very well in casuals, and it was a bit similar for KOF 15. And I actually did, on the other hand, I did really well in Best Fighting Herds, actually, but let's be real, who cares? But outside of the bracket experience, which was already, like, amazing, and with all the praises I have to say for it, it still really wasn't the main attraction. And especially for players that get eliminated really quickly, which really is most of us, you really only get like around 30 minutes of playtime for each game you enter. And like many friends have told me, what truly is the appeal is the overall tournament package and the interactions with the community you get through it. So some of the more obvious ones are stuff like getting to meet the larger fighting game figures. You have no idea how exciting it is to like see people like Lord Knight, Leffen, JM Crofts in person. And also really funny to like mistake somebody else as Kizzy K. But it's just like, I mean, like when you're there, you understand they're just regular people, but to you, they're so deep. They're like people only like you really know, and you know that they're massive people in the scene of your hobby. And it's just so exciting to see, especially for like, you know, a person that's only gone to this type of event once. And there's also stuff like meeting the niche figures, some of which we may have even interacted with online prior. For me, this is just partially as a byproduct of me being very deeply ingrained with fighting game culture, even outside of the more mainstream titles. Some examples include me interacting with the developer of the indie fighting game, Tough Love Arena, the game where you can play online in the browser. I talked with Paul M. Weeks a good amount and even actually played him in this game. And outside of him, I also played Element, not the Element from Guilty Gear Strive, who I beat in pools, but the Element, one of the head players of, and I think one of the Discord mods for the Akatsuki BlitzConf Discord. I had actually played with him online in Akatsuki BlitzConf X, I think that's how you say it. But getting to see him in person was really exciting, and we actually even got to play on Irons, which I'd never played before. And it was just a very exciting experience overall to see some of these figures that even among the fighting game scene, only probably you know like a decent amount of, and even ones that you've interacted with. And after that, just getting deeper and deeper, also finding the niche scenes for communities more specific to you is really exciting here. This is kind of covered with like these people that I was mentioning with interacting with stuff like indie fighting games. Like I think there was God of Rock, one of the indie music-based rhythm fighting games, having showcases, which I also got to play in. I got to play in one of my favorite games of all time, Ultra Street Fighter 4, on a cab, on a rotation. That's not really an experience you can get that easily. And I even watched I think top 4 or top 8 for Dive Kick. You know, the indie fighting game where you can only dive kick. It's like so tailor-made for me. It's so exciting to be in. It's honestly, you don't really understand until you're there yourself. But also just mingling with the community in general. I am kind of lucky to be in multiple. It's like how I've mentioned, I play both Guilty Gear Strive and Third Strike as my main games. So with Guilty Gear Strive, I get to interact a lot with the younger anime fighting game circle, and frankly, that's the larger part of the community that's here. But through Third Strike, I am also interacting a lot with the older / retro game folks. Some of these people I'm playing have like completely white hair. You can tell they're possibly in their early 60s, but they're still so incredibly friendly, so fun to interact with. And these communities, they definitely have a lot of different aspects to them, but they're both very equal in terms of their passion as well as how friendly they are. It's such an exciting community to be in, no matter which side you're on, or really, maybe it's not really even a side. We really should just interact with both, like I am. You're really missing out if you're only experiencing one of these sides. But outside of that, there's also the amazing art and merch vendors. Outside of the Frosty Faustings t-shirt that I'm literally wearing right now, I also bought Axel and Mason keychains for Guilty Gear and KOF respectively. and I still hang them on my bag to this day. It's so exciting to have. And I guess, like wrapping up the video a little bit, I just want to like provide some suggestions to newcomers from a former newcomer on how to like, I guess like be at a tournament like these, or if it's even worth to come to them. And I think it really boils down to it depends on your level of enthusiasm, which seems like an obvious answer. But for mine, even when honestly my fighting game enthusiasm is massive, it absolutely was a worthy investment. Even with like the price of $100, you can really tell that the team has put a lot of passion and time into organizing the event. Frankly, they deserve all this money. In fact, I kind of regret not coming to one of these majors sooner, knowing how amazing the events are. And I will say I definitely got lucky. I do know in retrospect that Frosty Faustings XV was a very phenomenally ran event. Thank you so much, Alvin Shadow. And events like EVO Japan this year weren't nearly as lucky and had a lot of issues. But still, there aren't a lack of great ones, like with the recently done Combo Breaker that happened not long ago this May, which I actually kind of wish that I was able to attend. I think just doing a bit of research can definitely lead to some amazing tournament experiences to join. But if it wasn't obvious enough from what I was sharing, I definitely would say not to hyperfixate on the bracket experience. It is important and all, but it's really not the main appeal of a tournament unless you're a really top player. But then you'd likely not be a newcomer and you probably wouldn't need to watch this guide. But also, don't enter too many games unless you're prepared to be burned out. I recommend really only playing 3 at most. I personally played 4 in this first major, and it was a good time for me, but I was a bit lucky with the scheduling, and like I said, I definitely needed to like proceed back to my room a couple times just to chill a little bit. So I don't think that experience is for everyone. And definitely grab photos. This I cannot emphasize enough. I don't usually take photos that much, but I definitely made sure not to do that here, and I still have a lot of regrets with them. In particular, I greatly regret not grabbing photos with a lot of the figures I mentioned prior, which I had even like interacted with. I was just like too shy to like ask for a photo. Please don't make the same mistake I did. I don't know if I'll get this chance again. I hope I will, but if you get the chance, don't miss out. And obviously, grab merch. I know, like this seems like an obvious thing to say, but you probably won't have too many chances to grab this sort of merchandise. And it feels so great to have stuff that represents you, especially if this is like a hobby so deeply ingrained with you, you know. But okay, so as a bit of a conclusion, definitely like think Frosty Faustings XV was an incredibly memorable experience. This is why I'm still making this video, despite the fact that it's so late. It's truly memorable to me, in large part, obviously due to like how amazing the event was ran. It couldn't have possibly been this great without the help of Elvin Shadow and all the other community members. But also, I think in large part due to just me being like a newcomer and like this being my first major experience. And now I am back in Taiwan since I've graduated from university back in the US. I imagine I won't be able to play in events like these for a long while, but I'm certainly looking forward to the day I can compete again. And definitely, if you have the chance, and if it's worth it, you're passionate enough, don't miss out. Please go for it. Thank you.